Yes, you are. Okay, now it's 8:30. I would like to call the meeting of the Economic Development Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Chair LaPlante.
Here.
Vice Chair Galassi.
Here.
Member Rutledge. Here. Member Colbert. Here. Member Childress and Member Yu.
Thank you so much. I move to approve the minutes from our last meeting, the economic, that's still coming. Approval of minutes from our Economic Development Committee from June 20th. All in favor?
Second.
Oh, excuse me.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. For my remarks today, I'm very excited to welcome Jay Dick, who is the Senior Director of State and Local Government Affairs from the Americans for the Arts. He is a wonderful expert on the arts and the way that they drive economic development and have an economic impact. And I thought he would be the perfect person to come and offer his expertise and his insight and for our committee. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And do we have any public comments?
We do not.
Okay, thank you so much. So I move on to item number 6. I move item 6A 23-2468. I move to receive and place on file GPN Apprenticeship Expansion Grant PY23, Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, U.S. Department of Labor, $125,000 for Human Resources Workforce Development Division. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, that motion passes. Item 6B, I move to receive and place on file GPN 043-23 Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act Grant PY23, Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, U.S. Department of Labor for $5,151,280. It's a Human Resources Workforce Development Division.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Which brings us to our presentation. Do we have Mr. Dick on the line? Can you please pull him up?
I only see 3 participants. It's Rita Hackey. And
She's choosing page.
Okay, so let's see if we can get him. One moment, please. Here he is. Let me see if he's having trouble getting in. Talk amongst yourselves, everyone. Okay, his computer just crashed. Be right back. This is the miracle and joy of tech. Okay, so while we're waiting for his computer to be resuscitated and get back online, I just brought a couple of handouts before you, these little pinwheels. And that's from when Jay was at NACO in Austin. So I've been working with him online. Here he is. And then he did this presentation in NACO. Hi, Jay. Isn't ours?
No sound.
Yes. Okay. Can you turn up the volume a little bit, please, so we can hear him a bit better? I'm glad that you got your computer back up. We were just saying, isn't tech a wonderful thing?
Gotta love it. Thank you, guys.
Yes. Well, welcome. We're so happy that you can join us. Thank you for bringing your expertise to DuPage County. We're really excited to hear from you. We've got our handouts from you in front of us. I also brought those great pinwheels that you handed out at NACO. I brought those, yes, as party favors. So we are all set and ready. So go ahead and take it away.
Excellent. Let me pull up my PowerPoint. First off, thanks so much, Chairwoman, for letting me to be there with you today virtually. I'm a good Midwesterner myself. I am from Iowa, so I always enjoy coming back to the good Midwest there. My uncle and aunt lived in Portage, Indiana, so I would always come over there for my summer vacations. I grew up outside of Des Moines, and so we'd always come across I-80 there to the Chicago area. So as the small Midwesterner, it was always kind of cool to come over to the Chicago area and see all the big skyscrapers in Chicago area. And then I'm a big, I like O'Hare Airport. I'm one of the few people who like it because I know that if my plane gets delayed, I got another one in 45 minutes. It's going to bring, to get me to DCA where I'm at. So
That's
It's
right.
always there.
Also,
Okay, so
you
my,
have Frontera Grill there. That's my tip for you at O'Hare. Go check out Frontera Grill at O'Hare.
which concourse is that in? Because
B,
I'm American, so I'm in G and H and K.
wherever it is, it's worth the walk.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me share my screen here, and I cannot share my screen. Can I share my screen? Can someone give me the ability to share my screen?
Yes. 1 second. Our magicians are working on it.
Not a problem here.
And if, let's see, yeah. that
I
should
brought it
happen.
on a flash drive as well.
Oh,
just in
perfect.
case.
Yeah, we've got backups to the backups.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry.
No worries. But I'm trying to respect your 30 minutes here to keep us on time here. Oh, here we go. I got a share screen here. So hopefully people should be able to see a PowerPoint here.
Yep, we've got it.
Okay, let me do a slideshow. Perfect. Okay. So you know who I am. So again, thanks for letting me be here. So you have a little handout in front of you. I'm not going to go through this, but this is something that we always love to kind of have with you. It's just some little cool ways for us to think about the arts that are out there, that the arts are just more than what the sum total of them are. They're really out there to help, improve your individual well-being, social impact, and what we're there to talk about today is to help strengthen the economy there. I know that you guys are sitting around the table already support the arts. I get that. But my goal today is to help you to think about the arts in a slightly different way. And so that's kind of the goal here. So when I ask, I go around the country and speak to groups like at the National Association of Counties, I oftentimes ask the question, what is public perception of the arts? And I get a lot of dead silence. And I get a lot of, and I don't know. And the thing is, the cool thing about the United States is art means very different things to a lot of different people. That's the cool thing. We have a lot of different arts. But at the end of the day, oftentimes art means this to a lot of elected officials. An old lady in opera glasses, listening to the art. The arts, and I kind of say the arts are for those SOBs. The arts are those symphonies, operas, and ballets. Meaning the arts oftentimes are seen as for the elites. The arts are for the coasts, the East Coast, the West Coast, the Hollywoods, the Broadways, the things along those lines. The arts are really not for everyone. And that's what we really need to get away from. And I think that's what you in DuPage have already realized, that the arts really are there to help with a lot of different things that are going on there. So I just want you to always, when you're working in DuPage there around the creative sector there, is to get away from the SOBs. Now, granted, I love the orchestras and ballet, so don't ever want everyone say that Jay hates the SOBs that are out there. But there's so much more than that. And again, when we hear the argument against why you should be supporting the arts or working to use the arts to help with economic issues, that's oftentimes is that little perspective out there that the arts are just those things, when there's so much more that's out there. And so you have that pinwheel in front of you. And this is just a nice little visual. And there's a link on there to our website that really does show, it has some examples you can play around with. It's a fun, but the arts can be so much more than that. And so when I talk about to our arts advocates that are out there, especially like I was talking with Debbie Venezia, who's your director of arts DuPage there. The arts are not there just for the sum total of the arts. The arts are there to help you as county leaders, to help you with your problems. So is it, necessarily arts in healthcare, with our maybe addiction with opioids? Is it arts in aging in place with your senior population? Is it arts in tourism? Is it affordable housing? Is it community development? The arts can be a lot of different things that are out there. So again, don't let yourself get boxed into this narrow idea of what the arts are. Think broadly, think creatively about what these can do, and lean into the community, because there's a lot of great things that are out there to help you be a better leader in your community and use the resources that are already in your community, building upon them to make a stronger economy for DuPage County that's out there. And, what are those creative industries that are out there? There's going to be a lot of different things that you might not even think about are the arts that are out there. The biggest one on here, believe it or not, in growing is that 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth one, video and design. I don't know, the next one, IT software. That's like the biggest growing actually arts and design that's out there. Think about gaming, computers, IT. That's actually the biggest one in growth that's out there. But there's all kinds of things that are going on there. Of course, museums, galleries, libraries are on there. But again, think a little more broadly about what those arts are that are out there. And just again, look around the room. Unfortunately, your room is not the brightest and most colorful and decorated there. So we have to work on your facilities director there. But you know, it was still designed by someone. Even the table has a design work that's going on there with that. So let's talk some numbers. That's why I'm really here. Economic development here. That's your committee there. Even artists really don't realize how big of an industry the arts are. So this is from the United States Bureau of Economic Analysis. These are 2021 numbers, I believe, the last numbers that we have there. So nationally, the arts, part of our gross domestic product, is 4.4% of our GDP. And for the first time ever, that was a $1 trillion industry. That's that red line on the right-hand side. ACPSA is the acronym for the arts. We're only behind retail at $1.3 trillion. But look at that. We are above construction, transportation, utilities, mining, education, and agriculture. Who would have thought the arts are a larger industry than construction, transportation?
Me.
Right. Did I have a question?
I would, Jay.
You would. Okay.
This is what I've been proselytizing. Yes. Amen. Amen.
And again, but we're just not in like, one big building someplace. We're spread out everywhere. And I'm going to show you a little map here in a second about that. Going to Illinois, you're 3.8% of the state's domestic product at $31 billion. You're actually behind transportation, but still above construction. Retail is still number one that it's out there. And so the interesting thing is whenever, you're out there, promoting a transportation or construction or a new building or whatever, are you out there promoting those arts programs too? Because again, they are a valuable tool for you that's out there. And notice this also doesn't just include tourism. This code does not include tourism. Add another 2.2% of GDP for the tourism that's on there too. So, wow, there's a lot of dots here. So that's DuPage County there. This is a little old data here, but this is Dun and Bradstreet numbers there. They're a big firm that looks at businesses. And last time we knew had 2,272 arts-related businesses that employed about 14,689 people. 4.2% of all of your businesses and 1.9% of all of your employees. The average is 4% of businesses across the country and 2% of employees. So you're actually above the national average of businesses and a little bit below for employees. But look at all those dots. Those are all dots of an arts-related business. Now, that's not always a museum or something like that. Think about that second slide. That could be an architectural firm. That could be a creative design firm. It could be something along those lines. But it's all something that they're creating something from nothing. They are a design and arts-related firm that's there. And so again, you have a lot of great stuff in your county. How can you lean into them as a board and make use of them better? So that's the question. And I'm going to give you some great suggestions when we're done here. So our my last little study here before I kind of get into this, our Arts and Economic 5 study here. This is a study that is, we recently did, we did this 6 years ago. Our AEP 6 study is going to be released in October. So I don't have the new numbers right now, but this is something that we did last in 2018 in all 50 states. This is nonprofit arts only. And we look at, what is the economic impact of the nonprofit arts? So the economic impact, how many, jobs is created, what tax revenues created, things along those lines. And so nationally, of those 300 and so study partners, so we only count what we can count. We don't do a multiplier or anything along those lines. We found that nationally, arts organizations and audiences that we counted were $166.3 billion a year industry. And in Illinois, it was a $4 billion a year industry. So again, that's a huge, industry that's going on out there. And more importantly to you as economic development folks is nationally, we found, in addition to spending on their ticket, so this is their, in addition to the ticket, people nationally spent $31.47 when they went out. Okay, so they bought meals and snacks. Think about when you go out to a theater or go out to a gallery or whatever. You're going to spend money. You're going to go out and have a dinner. You're going to buy souvenirs, some transportation. I don't know if I want to spend find a $3.51 hotel room or something like that. Now, this is averages. Obviously, not everyone spends on a hotel room. But 31. This is average. But the interesting thing in Illinois, your average is a little bit higher. You're $35 in Illinois. These are dollars that are spent in your local economy that goes into your economy fairly directly. So this is sales tax, for hotel or for hotels too, for meals tax or different things along those lines. And we also found in these studies that 69% of these individuals, that this arts, whatever they're going to, the arts venue, was their primary purpose for travel. So these are people that probably would have just stayed home and cooked dinner. Not everyone, I can't say everyone, but these are people who are going out and eating who probably would have not necessarily went out and ate or had that babysitter hire or stuff like that. So again, these are all dollars that are being spent in your community there. More importantly, though, again, nationally, this generated $27.5 billion. When we added up how much money the federal government, the state governments, and as many local and county and city governments invested in the arts, it's about $5 billion. So all the governments invest $5 billion in the arts, and they're getting $27 billion out. So that's a 5-to-1 return on investment. Again, I always say, if that was an IPO on Wall Street, I would certainly, take that. In Illinois, the state government and local governments got $247 million from the arts. Local government's $247 million, and the state government got $231 million from the arts component from this. Again, much more than is invested in the arts. And notice I say invested, not appropriated or given to the arts. You're investing in the arts because you're getting a good return, like you invest in a lot of other things there. So I'm going through this very quickly, so I do apologize, but I want to make sure that you get this. So this is all fine and dandy. Let's talk some comparisons here with some things here. So you have Chicago. I just want to put Chicago up there because I have data for Chicago, but you're not Chicago. But this is the cool thing with Chicago. So their economic impact with our study was $3.2 billion. They're huge. They're Chicago. They generated $182 million in local taxes through the arts. They had $1.99 or almost $2 billion in local income. So that's paychecks that come from the arts. So don't ever let people say that the arts are not real jobs either out there. Now this is the interesting part, per person spending. So people spent an average of $50.56 in addition to their ticket price when they went out to a show or something in Chicago. That's the dollar amount you want to get and have them come and take that $50.56 and bring it to DuPage County. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that here in a second there. In Fairfax County, that's where I live. Yeah, so it's a suburb of Washington, D.C. And it's very similar. So D.C. is the big hub. We got the Smithsonian's, we got the Kennedy Centers, the National, Warner Theaters, and stuff like that. And in Fairfax County, a very large county, we have about 1.2 million, again, kind of similar, again, a fairly well-off county also. We have Wolf Trap and we have Mount Vernon, and and got some smaller ones in between, but not a ton of arts groups that are out there. Our economic impact was 272 million, 9 million in local taxes, household income 145, and our per person spending was 21. That's a nice little, since I don't have specific revenue for DuPage, I think that's a good little estimate of what you're probably doing right now in DuPage there. But I wanted to comment about what you could be doing. So I want to look at Sarasota Bradenton. Anyone been down to Sarasota Bradenton, down in Florida, south of Tampa? It's the number one place to retire in this country. And I'm going to tell you probably why I think it's the number one place to retire. They have invested, they've leaned into the arts because they know that people want stuff to do when when they've retired to enjoy themselves. So their economic impact is 342 million, their local tax 14, 244 million in household income and $36. So they're quite high in that. They have great symphonies, operas, and ballets down there. They have the great SOBs. They have a lot of great galleries. They have stuff going on all the time there. They're over 4 different counties, and they only have about 700 and some thousand people there too. So they're even a little smaller than you. And so again, this is an area where they really invested in the arts, to do stuff there. So just even thinking about going back to that Chicago number, that $50 there, if you could attract just 100,000 Chicago residents who no longer want to go out to the theater in downtown Chicago because parking sucks, maybe they don't feel safe down there, and you can lure just 100,000 a year out there at $50. That's $5,050,000 into DuPage's economy. That's not in Chicago's economy. That's a good little bump, and that's just 100,000. That's not that big of a number there. So think in lines of stuff along those lines of bringing in those dollars, but you have to give them something to do, something unique, something that is of interest there to them. We have a calculator on our website. So if you have a theater or a gallery or something like that, you want to see what their estimated economic impact is, go check them out. There's just a few little 3 questions here. With the population, total your expenses, basically, what's your budget, and then the total attendance. That's going to pop out some estimates for you, so you can kind of see what your estimated economic impact is for that there. So I want to now talk about some aspirations of what can you do here before I'm quiet here. Has anyone been to Carmel, Indiana, or know of Carmel, Indiana?
Yes.
Been to Carmel.
Yes.
Carmel. Okay, I heard some yeses. It's a wonderful place, isn't it?
Yeah.
So was anyone in Carmel, Indiana 25 years ago, downtown Carmel, Indiana?
No.
Because you wouldn't have had a reason to go to downtown Carmel, Indiana 25 years ago. So anyone know Jim Brainerd? He's their mayor. I've had the pleasure of knowing Jim for probably a good 15 years now. So 25 years ago, he became mayor, and their downtown was not the best. And for those who maybe don't know, Carmel, Indiana is a northern suburb of Indianapolis. They are like you. They're about 100,000 people now. They were only about 30,000 about 25 years ago. Their median household income is 119,000, so they're pretty well to do over there too. And basically, Mayor Brainerd's like, I am tired of my citizens going down to Indianapolis and spending their money down there instead of keeping them up here in Carmel, in my county up here. And so he set out to create the Carmel Arts and Design District out there, and it was a 20-year process, but he was committed to this. And now there's 200 galleries. There are 3 cultural hubs here: the Center for Performing Arts, 1,600 seats; the Tarkington Theater, 500 seats; the Black Box Studios, 200 seats. They have all kinds of educational classes that are going on year round. Those 3 theaters have 250,000 people attend them annually. Keep in mind, the city has 100,000 people in them. That's the number of citizens. So these 3 theaters are seeing 2.5 times the number of citizens coming through them each year. And the picture in the upper left, that's the Center for the Performing Arts up there. And notice the roundabout. It's also the roundabout capital of the country too. He likes his roundabouts too. He's been on NPR to talk about his roundabouts too. And then the lower right-hand side is the inside of that theater too. It's a beautiful, beautiful theater that's out there. They get over 6 million visitors annually. These are visitors are people that consider traveling over 50 miles to get there. It's spread out, so you get most of the people in spring and summer, but you still get people in fall and winter. And they even have 4 major festivals. They have their International Arts Festival, their Art of Wine, their Artomobile Festival, I guess automobiles. And then this past weekend, they had their inaugural Jazz Festival. So they're just bringing in tons of people, down there, because they all realize, hey, we have something that we can really do down here. And so their economic impact, again, the 250,000 people, their average attendee is $26.39. That's 6,597,500 people. So there's a lot of money that can be had here. And this is where he really leaned into, invested in. He got a lot of kind of crap because he's like, we're going to spend some county resources to kind of put this together. But hindsight was, wow, you did a great job. That's why he's on his 7th term as mayor. He's one of the oldest, longest serving mayors in this country now with that. And so I will just conclude with this question. Anyone know what this is? What this is a picture of?
A blank spot on a gallery, it looks like. On a
It is,
gallery
but
wall.
guess what? But what hung there, do you think?
I don't know.
This is where the Mona Lisa hung
Oh,
before she was stolen in August of 1911. And she was missing for about 2 years. More people came to see the space where she used to hang than used to come in the previous 2 years.
Okay,
So,
that's some subversive art right there.
Yes.
That's some MoMA stuff right there.
So,
MCA.
appreciate the art while you have it. Don't assume it will always be there. You as leaders in your community need to make sure that you are leaning into thinking about embracing and use the arts want to be used and abused. They're there, use them. They will be part of the solution to your issues in DuPage. You have a lot of great things going for you. You really do. Use the arts, lean into them, and you're going to be really successful. That's in my presentation. I will stop there. I'm happy to answer any questions that folks, might have with that. And I will stop sharing my screen. And hopefully I gave you some good, decent ideas.
Thank you so much, Jay. I, of course, could listen to this all day, and it makes me so happy because this is what I've been sort of singing for a while. And I love that you are providing all the data points because there it is, there's the facts. So I'll start out some of the questions. I have 2 things. Number 1, can you speak to the idea of the county's role? And I know you did with Carmel and local government, but local government and county's role in supporting the arts, because there's a couple of things that I have heard. Number 1, we can't afford the arts. Why should we invest in the arts when there's people that are hungry, when there's people experiencing homelessness, meaning we have more pressing issues? That's 1. And number 2 is this is not the county's purview. This is not what local government is supposed to do. We support the arts, but we don't fund the arts. Can you please answer those?
Well, I will say this is, again, earlier on, I said you're investing in the arts, just the same way you maybe invest in your transportation or you invest in your housing or things along those lines. Whenever I hear an elected official say, I wish I could afford the arts, but I have to buy a new ambulance or something like that. I will say this, we will help you pay for that ambulance. Unlike a police station or a fire station, they cost money. They're absolutely necessary, but they cost money. The arts generate money. You saw those statistics where the amount of money that you might invest in the arts, the return on that investment is always so much more than you're actually putting in there. So it's an investment that you're putting in there. Now, sometimes that's hard to communicate to maybe your constituents, but if you really sit down and say, look, this is a long-term strategy. This is how we're going to build our economy, make it stronger, and generate more growth. That's one thing. It's about the economy. And then the other thing is you go back to your economic, that wheel, and you talk about how you're going to help the homeless using maybe the arts to help draw them into a safe space, or you're using the arts to help with opioid addictions. There's other ways other than just building a big building. You're taking the arts into the communities to help them, understand what the arts are too. So again, it's taking the arts out of the arts box and taking it into the community. So the arts are a lot more than just a building that has a theater for the elites that are out there. The arts can really help the community that's out there too. Plus, they will pay for themselves. Ask Jim Brainerd. The arts pay for themselves out there. There's a little bit of a hump to get over that, but once you get that hump, you got a good little investment going on there.
Okay, so to summarize, tell me if I'm getting this right. It's not a binary choice of only invest in, wait until every single road, every single pothole is filled. That's not the choice. You can do both. You can address the social needs, and you can also invest in your community in the arts, which will help pay for those social needs and also help impact them in ways that you have to understand. Art is not passive. It's an experiential and very the opposite of passive, right, for a community in order to get involved. So that's a good way to push back against that erroneous thinking. Is that correct?
I would say yes, and if you would go and ask those elected leaders in those cities that do have those vibrant art scenes, they would concur with that.
Okay, wonderful. The second thing I would like to talk about is we have set aside ARPA funds for a sports and cultural analysis, a feasibility study. And we have voted as a board to really take a look at the arts and cultures, what's happening in DuPage County, to see what exists already, what the economic impact is of those existing facilities and organizations, and to see maybe where we're missing some or what we can sustain. To that end, we have partnered with Choose DuPage, which is the business engine of DuPage County. They are the ones that are going to be running the feasibility study and conducting it for us. But can you speak to, you know, the whole approach of really taking a hard look at the arts with economic development, that this is a way to invest in the economic development of our county through something like this?
Well, I think my presentation really kind of talked about that, the more facilities, the more opportunities that residents either from DuPage itself or attracting from Chicago or some of the surrounding areas to get them to come into your community, the more economic impact that you will have there. I know that you've had some really great exhibits that have been some world-renowned exhibits that have brought in thousands or tens of thousands of people that have been very big successes. How can you do that more often with different venues that are out there? And they can be big venues, they can be small venues. But the key thing is to have a lot of different options for people to be able to come in and do. And so I think through my presentation, through the economics of it, that's your answer. There's a lot of great opportunities through the arts to strengthen your economy.
I couldn't agree more. Greg, would you like to say anything or ask any questions? We have our Greg from Choose DuPage here, Greg Bedeloff.
Hello. Well, I just want to I'll let the committee know that the RFP for feasibility studies is on the street right now. We conducted a webinar for interested respondents.
Would you mind coming up?
Sure. Sorry.
Under the green light, Greg, where the mic is.
Oh. Good morning. The RFP for the feasibility study went on the street last week. 2 weeks ago, we conducted a webinar. We were very pleased with the number of respondents who participated in the voluntary webinar, over a dozen for the performing arts and about 10 for the sports component of it. The RFPs are due on the 21st of this month. As soon as we receive the RFPs, assuming we receive responses to the RFPs, we will then evaluate the RFPs and of course work with economic development and the rest of the county board on the next steps moving forward. I will let the board know, or this committee know, there was a great interest. I would almost call it a fervent interest from the consultants to be involved in this project, and we're hoping that their enthusiasm that they displayed during the voluntary webinar manifests itself in their responses. But all signs are very positive at this point, at least in terms of how Choose DuPage has perceived our involvement in this worthwhile endeavor.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Greg. We have a couple more questions. Carrie.
Jay, I just wanted to say thank you. It was a wonderful presentation. I learned an awful lot. I really appreciated the numbers, because I think that just, you can't argue, numbers like that. The 5-to-1 ROI was super impactful. I am a huge supporter of this. I actually, the year before COVID, started a theater company, and it was a wonderful experience. It was a children's theater. We did a full Broadway presentation of Little Mermaid. And one experience that I had during that process is finding a theater yes, it was amazing. It was amazing. Finding a theater that we could present our show in was very difficult. It was, there's just the facilities in the area were very competitive, either full or, just didn't have the capacity that I needed. So I hope that the results of the feasibility study further support the need for more arts in facilities in DuPage. My experience was certainly the case. My comment is, I loved your example of Carmel, Indiana. I actually went to Indiana University, so I'm very familiar with that area. I would just love to see additional examples that you could provide. I know you only had 30 minutes, but if maybe you could get with Lynn and just give her some additional examples of success stories like that, I think I think, I just enjoyed seeing even just that one picture that you presented of Carmel, Indiana, and any others that you could show or just give to Lynn and we can discuss as a committee, would be super helpful, just to continue to support this initiative.
Thank you for those comments. I will just say a couple things. One of the things I always say, you were talking about the return on investment. A couple things we always say here in Americans for the Arts is no data without a story, no story without a data. Those two things always go well together because people will always remember the story, but they don't always remember the data. But people don't oftentimes believe the story unless the data is there, with that. So we always combine the two things with that. When you're looking at, and hopefully your study finds this out. Oftentimes, I will say this, figure out what type of facilities you might need. While Mayor Brainerd built a 1,600 seat, a theater there, maybe you need, I'm totally making this up, 300 seats that, groups there type of thing, because your little, theater, you're not gonna need 1,600 or whatever, but maybe you need 4 around the area out there. And you combine that with educational classes, so you get educational tax credits to go along with that because you're teaching stuff in there too. So there's lots of different ways to shuffle the deck to meet the needs of your community. And that's the key thing that's out there. I'm going to throw out 3 cities and I'll get back with Chairwoman on this. Paducah, Kentucky, Omaha, Nebraska, and Dubuque, Iowa. I'm trying to figure out cities that are about the same, cities and counties about the same size. I'll give some more thought to it on things there, but especially Paducah, Kentucky. Paducah, Kentucky.
Wonderful, thank you. There's a plethora. I mean, there's so many wonderful examples of work and investments in both counties and areas of same size and scope of ours, but then also what's being done in rural communities that's completely and utterly revitalizing rural communities is mind-blowing. And this is really like a paddles, that you do to restart the heart of a community oftentimes. The first thing that goes in, Detroit, I think, is a wonderful example of revitalization through the arts. What the local governments did there was giving all these incentives to artists to move into Detroit, rehab existing buildings, and boy, oh boy. And they always say, start with the arts and the artists and the rest will follow. So I love those kinds of stories. So
Detroit actually copied after Paducah, actually.
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay. Well, I've always been giving credit to
town in Paducah.
Okay, I love that. I've been giving all the credit to Detroit, so I'll have to start singing the praises of Paducah now. Patty, did you have a question?
I did, Jay. I'm sorry I was late to your presentation. I was in the Judicial Committee. So I missed some of it.
Fun.
But I think I got the best part at the end, which is the return on investment. And we're really blessed here in DuPage County because it's a wide county, it's a big county. We have some really big cities like Naperville and Aurora that, contribute to the county. And they do have a lot of different facilities for the arts, North Central College and the rest. So we're really blessed in that way. The one thing though I'm wondering is events, festivals, bringing things from Chicago into DuPage County. That return on investment, because you're right, people don't want to spend the money in Chicago. The parking is $25 an hour. They'll spend the gas to come out to an event here. And so getting elected officials to support events here in the county has been difficult. I mean, there's some support, but not 100% of support when you need 100% of the support to get. Example, we had Rib Fest on our agenda last week, I think, or the week before, and they bring about 17,000 people a day to the county to spend money. But then we were hesitant to give them a full amount of money to support their event. And so it's kind of like now learning from you, it's like, well, maybe we should rethink that and kind of go, we want people to come here. It's a good return on investment. And if it's an event that can continue for the next 10, 20 years, then you're continuing to do that without having to spend that initial money to be able to make sure they're successful. And there's other events in DuPage County too. I'm just using that one as an example. So the question is, Jay, how do we get a different mindset for some elected officials and some really, organizations that deal in commerce in the county to kind of go, yeah, these are things you should be supporting. Yeah, these are things you should be embracing. Yeah, these are the things we want to continue.
Well, going to the festivals, I would say this is getting some really good examples of what other counties and cities are doing. So let's go back to Carmel, for example, since I talked about them. They have 4 festivals. Okay, ask, go in there and say, okay, how many people come? What's your economic impact? And getting some good data there to say, okay, here's some stuff that's going on in other cities and counties across the country. How did you get started? What was what did the city or the county originally put into maybe this festival that maybe started 10 years ago? Do you still put in money now? Maybe you don't, type thing. So was it just seed money 10 years ago? And has it grown and now it's self-sustaining? So getting some great other examples to show how some of these things grow, over time. I think that's the best way of just showing some examples of other things. So they know, those other groups know out there that this is not an experiment. This is a tried and true example of what is going on, and it brings in a good economic return. And again, it's not like you're in the middle of nowhere. You have population around you. And as long as you're showing that there's an interest in whatever the topic is, I think that you're going to get a good amount. And again, if you can say, we already had 17,000 people come in on this one. Now, what happens if you at the county added some seed money in for some good advertising or fill in the blank? Maybe you're going to get 25,000 next year. And if you do give some investment in there, put some of that investment for an economic study on, like, what did it do? Have some people at that festival with a clipboard and say, hey, where did you come from? What's your zip code? Hey, how much did you spend today? Hey, did you like it 1 to 5? So you have some good data for next year too, to again help the council say, should we invest in this again? So I think those are a couple of different ways to help you, with some of those people who are skeptical. Because again, my second slide, what do people think of the arts? Old lady in opera glasses. We have to get out of those SOBs and into here's what the arts really do. They are bringing the communities together. They are economic development. They are all these safe communities. There are all these things that are going on together.
Thank you, Jay.
Could not agree more, Jay. We're working on investing in that at the county level. And I think, we worked really hard to start something like that here. We're this year taking the time and the funds to invest in this feasibility study, but that's exactly what we're doing. And you plant the seeds, you start at a certain level and it grows over time. And anyone who's ever been involved in anything understands that. And that's the process. So we are definitely looking into that, because I do feel that that's something that is our purview. That is something that we can add very easily to the community with a really high, not only return on investment, which is obviously one of our biggest focuses here, especially for our committee, but impact on the community overall. And as you're talking about in your presentation, that pie chart that you put up there, what is that? Was that 30 different categories, 40 different categories? This is a very wide ranging and high impact way to reach your constituents in the community. Any other questions that anyone has? Sheila.
Thanks, Lynn. 2 things I want to say is Carmel. My daughter was in the show choir, and one of the first big competitions they had was at Carmel High School, and their theater was state of the art. So it even trickles down into the school districts, and they understand the pull of those kind of things. So that's one of my comments. The other is we had a pretty robust conversation about the RibFest issue, about marketing. And if you don't put it out there, it can't come back. So I have stood behind the arts in DuPage. I'll continue to do that. And I love the hard data because that helps us move this forward. So thanks for your presentation.
Thank you. Anyone else have any other questions? Yes.
I'm just going to summarize by saying I firmly believe in the statement that a rising tide lifts all boats.
That's what I say. That's my
And,
mantra.
I think we need to, the more we invest in DuPage and make it the fun place that article said, that we're going to be able to help all the social services that we all find important. So.
Exactly. That's basically been our mantra. A rising tide lifts all boats. This is, what's good for one area, it does have a positive impact in a very, very far ripple effect beyond what I think, to your point, that most people aren't exactly consciously aware of yet. And that's part of our job, is to educate and spread this word. So thank you so much, Jay. We really appreciate it. We're glad you came by for a virtual
Thank you, Jay.
visit to DuPage County, and we look forward to working with you in the future. We'll be in touch. Thank you,
Thanks,
Jay.
Thanks for having me. Be well, everyone. Bye-bye.
Okay, moving on to item number 8, old business. Is there any old business? Seeing none. Any new business? Okay, without objection, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
See you.